Right. So, hello. My name is Calvin Sadao. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Awana. Today, I'm really honored to have Evan from Marqi. He's the CEO and co-founder.
COO.
COO and COO. And I was lucky to have met Evan early on his journey of making Marqi successful. When he first came to us, he was in charge of the technical hiring, maybe just the general hiring for everything. And he grew Marqi to a certain level until he felt comfortable bringing on someone to take that lead. And so I'd like to chat with it. I'm bringing Evan here to chat with him and sharing with everybody to learn from his mistakes. If he made some.
Definitely.
And sharing with everybody what they can think of when they're looking to hire technical people, technical talent for their team, even if they're not a technical founder.
Welcome to Hiring Nowadays, a podcast about what makes and breaks successful hiring.
So, Evan, please share your journey to get to Marqi, to become the CEO, and to even think about hiring technical talent without being a technical founder.
Yeah. Well, one, thanks for having me, Calvin. It's great to talk with you about this. It's definitely been quite a journey to COO, as co-founder and COO of Marqi. So yeah, again, I'm Evan Perlmutter. I'm one of the co-founders. I have two other co-founders, Avi Gorn and Brian Rakowski. Avi is our CEO and Brian is our CRO, Chief Revenue Officer. And so a little bit about Marqi. And so it was started, Avi actually had the initial idea back in 2017. And I was helping him out part-time a little bit around then. And for a while, he'd been trying to convince me to come on full-time. Him and I go back a long time. We've known each other since childhood. We grew up in the same hometown. We went to the same sleepaway camp. We went to the same high school. So we've known each other for quite a while. And so back in 2017, Avi had this idea of Marqi. And again, like I said, I was working part-time and it took him a little while to convince me to join full-time, but I decided to eventually take the leap because founding a company, building something from scratch is always something that was super exciting to me. I've always kind of been a builder, someone that's excited to take things from the start and see where we can bring it. The initial idea of Marqi was actually an iPhone app and Android that would display your specials. We're originally from New York, right? So if you ever walk around New York, you see chalkboard specials everywhere. They write them right outside the restaurant, but when you Google them, find them, there's no way to find it. And that was the initial idea. And then we, after kind of working through that for a while and realizing, we were talking with a few of our customers and they're like, hey, our specials are great, but we also have all these menus that are incorrect and all of these hours that are incorrect on all of these sites as well. How can we take what we're setting in our point of sale, setting in all of these other systems and distribute that to all those other sites? And so we actually, we kind of took the idea from a lot of our customers and grew the business into what it is today. And so Brian Rakowski, our third co-founder, joined us full-time in 2020. He was part-time with us for a little while. And our first hire, Todd Mullen, was with us a little bit before that as well. And the four of us, we really started kind of taking that idea and hitting the ground running and see what kind of customers we can get. Now, from a technical aspect, if we wanted to look at that and talk a little bit about that, there was two sides to that kind of platform. Brian, Avi, and I came from this company called Yext, which Yext does listings management, things like that. So we had a great partner with them where we can work and help with some of our early technology over there. But then there was also the side of some of the other, integrations we want to build out for our customers that are truly valuable, that save them tons and tons of time. And a lot of that was me to start. I'm not like technically an engineer. I'm not a developer. If you talk to Carl, who's our VP of engineering today, he probably has such a headache trying to go through some of the code I've written in the past. I wrote a lot of that to start, and to say that I use like duct tape and glue is probably an understatement. But we put something valuable together for our customers that they could really use. We eventually and if I'm talking too much, let me know. But if you want to cut me off, let me know. But we eventually were able to gain enough steam to get a small kind of seed investment from a couple of investors, and I think one of them actually introduced us to Calvin and his team over there at Alana. I think at the time it was Hire Llama.
Yes, it was.
And we were able to kind of build enough steam to start not only hiring on the technical side, which I'll get into in a little bit, but we were also able to hire on the rest of the company, pour a little fuel on the fire to start, bringing in sellers, bringing in support people, all that good stuff. So that was around, end of 2020, let's say. I think at the end of 2020, we were sitting somewhere around, I forgot what the exact revenue was, but we've multiplied our revenue since then in an exponential way, which has been super exciting. But it's all due to the help not only from our investors, but also on the fact that we're able to continue building on top of this technology with the help of this team and the help of bringing on Awana to help us bring on a team, and Carl as well, our VP of engineering, to help kind of solidify that. Now, I'm happy to talk a little bit. That's a little bit of a backstory, a little bit of the team. I'm sure you have some questions, and we'll get into like the hiring the engineers and how that all went down and why I needed it and all that stuff. So I'm happy to dig into that. I'm ready for the questions.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think it's really valuable before stepping into that as your story, because you said you started out part-time, but what was that inflection point? Because I think a lot of us, even for my first startup, I was part-time until I came full-time, where there was an inflection point that said, okay, I have to stop whatever I'm doing because there's something happening here. What was that for you?
Man, was it obvious persistence? Maybe he'll laugh at that. It was probably a little bit of that, but I think the real thing for me was I'm a big proponent of learning, and I say this to everyone that joins Marqi, the people on my team, the people on other teams. My biggest thing is to make sure that if you are at our company, that you're learning a ton, that you're growing a ton. I think the reality is, and I can say this to everyone who's at our company, I say this to everyone at every company, you're probably not going to be at the company you're at forever. But if you leave Marqi better, better than what you were before, we've accomplished something, right? We've done something well. You gain skills. We're happy that you're going to find something else and keep growing those skills, right? And so the reason I'm saying that is because when Avi kept being persistent with me, I was at this point where I was ready to tackle something where I could learn adversity and kind of understand how to handle that and to get through it. And again, like I mentioned, I'm a builder. And it was just at this point where I was getting married, or I was about to get married pretty soon, but we didn't have any major family obligations, and it was kind of a good time for me to take a risk. And so me and my wife talked about it, and it was a little more thought out, I think, than just a flip of a switch for me, as it is for some people. But it was a good opportunity, I thought, for me to really learn not only about the skills that I continue to grow. I've learned about so many things. I'm sure you've done the same thing, like HR, finance, investor relations, stuff I'd never even thought about. But that's the stuff that I love. And I thought it was just a good opportunity for me to kind of dive headfirst into it and take a risk. And were those first few years tough? They were. But we made it through the other side. And well, I think in every startup, there's always did you make it through the other side? I don't know. We'll find out. But I think
yes.
I would call what we've done so far, if I look back on what we've done so far, I'd call it success. We have a great team. We have about 40 employees who, we have built a great company. I'd say it's successful, right? There's still a lot more work to do, but so that's long answer to what was the inflection point. I don't know if it was exactly one moment, but it was definitely a converging of hey, no risk, it's a good time to take a risk. I'm ready to learn a lot. I'm ready to kind of jump into something and really understand what I'm about as an entrepreneur. I don't really call myself an entrepreneur, but as a founder of a company. And then on a personal note, my dad was a business owner. He owned his own business his whole life. And that was always something I kind of admired from him. And always wanted to kind of learn and do myself and see if it was something that was possible from a leadership perspective. Can I take on all these responsibilities and really swallow them and get into it? I'm sure I've made mistakes, and that's how we learn, but I'm that's sort of where it all kind of came from, I'd say.
Yeah. And when you were first launching your product, it sounded like you were hacking it together to get some type of MVP together, so that, because it sounds like the other two co-founders were more on the sales side, correct?
Definitely.
You have the CR, CEO. That's, to me, shouts, make sales, make money.
Yeah.
You pieced together how a product should look like, and it sounds like you were in the coding of it with, I don't know, by yourself or with others. Like, what was that experience like, and why did you decide, like, okay, I'd rather take this rather than looking for a CTO or even working with a technical advisor or a fractional CTO?
Yep. Great question. And so you are correct. My other two co-founders are definitely sales focused. Brian was actually Avi's boss at the company we were all at together. I referred Avi for a role under Brian's team, and so that's kind of how we all sort of got connected. I always tell the story a little bit funny, but Brian was the first employee at this company, so he was kind of a head honcho at this other company we were at. And so when I referred Avi, he went in for the interview. I was just on the customer support team. Brian walks over to our kind of area and he's like, "Which one of you is Evan?" And I'm like, very nervously raising my hand. He's like, "I just want to let you know that Avi got the job." So that was just like a funny story. So they're definitely sales focused. Avi is in sales. Brian is in sales. That was definitely their background. My background was operations, a little bit of product work. I was in customer support. I kind of was a jack of all trades at a lot of my previous roles. And so when the time came to decide where are we going to put our resources, is it going to be on the sales side of the house or the technical side of the house, we leaned on the sales side of the house. And I think that's twofold. I think it's because I'm not purely a technical founder, where I didn't want us to lean so heavily into that. I've kind of always been on revenue operations as well, and I've kind of been on the sales side of the house in that aspect. So I understood that. And to me, and I think for Avi and Rutko, that was easy for us we can build an engine, we can understand that, and we can kind of duct tape this side of the house together till we're ready. But this side, we know we can build it in a way where we can scale it. And there's still a lot of work to do on the sales side of the house and the support side of the house, but the three of us have kind of seen that and done that and been through that. Where on the other side of the house, we haven't really built a technical team. I've never built a code base from scratch. And luckily, again, like I mentioned, we had Carl who could take all of that over when he came on and do it the right way. But I think if we invested on that side of the house without proper leadership there, we probably would have done it incorrectly and the wrong way. And we would have been in a huge amount of technical debt that like, maybe we might not have recovered from. And so we're able to scale the business in a really nice way with our expertise and what we knew. And a lot of people joked with us that we're all from New York. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's very East Coast startup of you to think about sales first." And I was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. So it's not like a West Coast mentality. East Coast is very like, where can I get the money? When is it coming in? And I'm like, okay, I could do all day. That's like very New York. But the other side is yes, it's building and technical. And so at the beginning, I did a lot of the coding. I did a lot of like the duct taping, as I like to say. It was not good code. It worked. I'm sure our support team had a lot of headaches with some of the stuff I put together, but at the end of the day, it got us where we are today, luckily.
So, and when I talk to startups early on, because they're always like, how do I continue with the tech side? I don't have a technical founder. Or some of them come from me working with a consulting agency. So, but it sounds like, again, it sounds like you wanted to make sure that you had some form of technical leadership, right? Through you. Did you consider working with an IT consulting agency? did you shaking your head? Did you use one or no? And yeah,
Yeah, no, it's a good question also. And so we had tried, I think even before Brian came on full time, we had tried working with an IT consultancy, and I don't want to, I'm not here to turn them down. They're good for certain things. I think depending on what you're trying to build, it can go a different way. We definitely had some good partners when we worked on with that, and it just didn't pan out. Like I think you need a people in there every single day understanding your business in order to build it the right way. And I'm a true believer of that. I know there have been great businesses built off of consultancies, and more power to them, and they should be. And there's been great technology built off of things like that. I think the world turns with the technology. I think that's great. I personally think, and people could take this advice if they want. Advice is a dime a dozen, as they say. And so I think like it is so important for your product people, your engineers and developers to be full-time focusing on your product, because when they build it, you could feel the energy in it. You could feel the passion behind it. They're talking to your support people. They're talking to your sales people. They're truly understanding the full scope of it. And there's no context switching. And so I think when we worked with that consultancy, we missed a lot of that. And so I think our product is, I wouldn't say it's complex, but I think I think our customer base is a little complex. I know it's restaurants, and people are like, oh, they're just restaurants. It's so much more complex than that sometimes, that you need people who are kind of fully focused on it to make sure we're building it the right way. And so I don't want to say we had a bad experience with agencies, but I don't think it was the right experience for us. And there became this kind of inflection point when we haven't hit critical mass on the sales side, but when we had invested enough on the sales side where we felt like that was a good engine, where we were ready to kind of shift our focus over to, okay, let's take this kind of product market fit is this term that's always thrown around. Like, who knows if anyone actually has product market fit, and everyone will be like, oh, you sound like a dummy for saying like that, or something like that. But it's such like a typical startup, like product market fit. So I think we're in a good place where like people are buying what we're selling, and now it's time to really invest heavily on the tech side, and like, how can we make it even better for what they have today? Take all this feedback we've been getting 2 or 3 years and like turn it into a great product. Then we kind of hit that inflection point where it's like, I can't do this anymore from just me. I'm just not technically capable. We need to bring on a technical leader as well as like technical people at this company to start managing this and handling this. And so it kind of started there. Yeah.
I think that's really valuable to state that, because when I've seen IT and dev shops work well, you really have to have the infrastructure and the knowledge base to set it up. If you're coming in, because like your company was focused a lot on making the sales and not that complete dedication, and you were kind of learning how to do that, but you're also focused on providing the support for sales and getting the idea moving, and not just tech, product all the time. So if you can't do that, that's probably a recipe or an equation for a failed like hire or contract with an agency. And that's why you would need full-time people, which I don't know if it was around that same time that you did get introduced to us. And because you still didn't have that tech, I mean, you were the technical leader at that point. For how many hires was it till you eventually hired?
Yeah, I was about to say that. Like, you're hitting the nail on the head with me exactly. Is like, not only was I trying to focus on some technical stuff, but we had almost 20 employees, and I also had to do the HR. I had to do the operations for the sales team and the support team. Before we brought on, we had promoted, one of our support people, Maddie, to run our support team. Before that, I was managing the support team also. And then we brought on Ashley to run the account manager team as well. And before that, it was my focus too. And so I was in all these different places. And I would say right around that 20 employee mark, I believe. I could be getting it wrong. So if someone at the company is listening to me, slack me after and tell me I got it wrong. That's around that moment, I believe, like where I was I was saying, hey, I can't do this on my own. We need to start laying the infrastructure down. And that's when we were introduced to you guys. It was a great experience. I'm like definitely happy to get into that if that's where you want to go down. I'm like, where, and it's been a great experience. I'm like, well, I'm happy to talk about all of that also. And like, I definitely had made some mistakes. And I definitely think I did some things right. And like, I did some things wrong. And I'm happy to get into all of that is what I'm trying to say on this. But I also I could also mention like why we went with you as well, if that helps.
Let's like what I think of is, I guess, why, but I mean, we can discuss why Awana is special and everything, but what I think provides more value is like you just stated at that 20-person mark, it was too much for you. You worked with us to then start hiring more. And I don't think Carl got introduced to us till about 3 or 4 more hires. So you were still hiring more people and you were still burnt out. I mean, not burnt out, but I know what it's like to have to do all these things and it gets really difficult. So I guess why did you take the 3 or 4 hires to find Carl and not look after 1 or 2 hires and go, okay, actually, or even the first one should have been Carl.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that you're hitting the nail on the head there. And I think that's where I've learned my mistake, I would say. And so I think I was a naive founder, and I think all of us probably are at the beginning, even though it might not have been the beginning, of thinking that I could hire a technical person without truly understanding the role from top to bottom. I had never been an engineer by trait. I never understood that. And I think we were ready. I think we had closed like a second round of funding or another batch of seed funding. And so we were ready to bring on some of these hires. And I think we were under the pressure to bring on a technical person onto the team without truly thinking through, hey, we should bring on a lead first to then kind of help build all this out. That is not like a Avi thing or a Brian thing or anyone else. This is definitely a me saying to myself, like, I could probably find the right person to do these things, when in reality, I probably was not the expert that I thought I was. And I'm going to take away that probably. I was not the expert that I thought I was. Like Carl has definitely shown me like, oh, here are the right ways to do X, Y, and Z things and what we should have had in place in the first time. And we brought on some great hires. I think with some of those first ones. I know Rodrigo, who's really worked out. We definitely made a couple of mistakes at the beginning, but like we definitely made some good hires before we brought Carl on. But I think if we had done it with Carl first, I think the process would have been a little bit smoother at the beginning for everyone, including him. Imagine, I mean, it's tough coming in as a manager of people who like you didn't hire them, right? So we had this grandiose idea of building this huge technical platform, and I decided to bring in this is the wrong way to put it maybe, but like I wanted to bring in the people who would build it without bringing the visionary to help us build it first. So I have the thought, but the reality is it should have been like more focused towards what Carl was thinking. And then like we had kind of this mishmash of things at the beginning, which created like some tough conversations that we had to have. So 100% learned from that mistake. Like it is naive to think that you are the expert in something if you have never done the thing that like that you need to do. Have I managed people? Have I done all that? Yeah, maybe I checked all those boxes in my head, but like technical management, I think is so different than like people management. Being a tech lead is a very different understanding than being a people manager. And that's where my mistakes were. And that's where I failed. One, I know I keep saying that word and everyone's like, why? I'm sure people are going to listen. I don't know. Maybe they will. And they'll say like, why do you keep saying how much you fail? You know, one thing we talk about at Marqi is sunshine your failures. And that's truly like how you learn from those mistakes. And so I definitely learned a lot from those first couple. And I think if I had to go back and do it all over again, would definitely bring in someone like you mentioned, Calvin, like bring in that leader first to really kind of help drive, where we're going on the hiring aspect from
Well,
there.
yeah, because I think in the beginning you brought a bunch of individual contributors, and
Mhm.
and I think when I usually try to work with companies, I usually try to set up the lead first with companies, unless, I mean, usually the leads are the most expensive. So that's usually, I mean, and people, it always feels like at a restaurant when you go, oh, what's the best dish, the $25 dish or the $20 dish? And the person always says the $25 dish, no matter what the dish is.
All right.
And I feel like that when people ask me like, oh, should we do like what should we start with? And I start with the lead because of what you're that component to it. Because if you
I'm pretty
build
sure
up all these,
you pitched that to me also, and I was like, all right, let's see what happens.
because the individual contributors are great, but you're dealing with 20 people.
Yeah.
And it's not even the technical team at that point. It's, yeah, they're different, and they also have their own culture that they work within that is separate from the company. They kind of umbrella it under the company, but at the same time, like, even when I build teams, and even for the part-time person that I have sometimes just to help like non-technical founders out, that person is like one-on-one with the CEO and one-on-one with the team. And like it feeds that fire to get the team going, because I can see it when you don't have that infrastructure. And I think you had it early days. I think things slipped through like what your purview was, because you were focused on making sure the support team was working well. And my assumption is that that's going great. Your sales and support are going really well in those early days. You didn't catch some things that normally you probably could have caught had you been able to give probably 5 to 10 more hours of attention, right?
Yeah, and even on that's a great point, because even on the side of, I could talk to my revenue operations analyst or my operations analyst, and I can point to them and be like, hey, let's try it, because I've done it and I can see it. But I couldn't talk to those ICs at the beginning and say, oh, this is what you should be doing, because the reality is I didn't know what they should be doing, right? So I could, like you said, I could be a good people manager, but from like understanding their job, like I think that was very naive of me to think like I could do that. And so it's a great call out. And I agree, we probably should have gone with the lead first, as opposed to the ICs. Luckily, we got a couple great ICs to start, but yeah, it ended up, we probably should have gone the other way around.
And now that I think, are you on your third round of? Didn't you just close another round like
we had like
a month ago?
Yeah, so yeah, we just closed our Series A funding about a month ago, and so yeah, this is our third round. We had like a seed, and then like sort of a bridge round, and then and then this is our Series A that we had just closed. So hoping to put a little bit more onto the technical side as always. I think everyone kind of knows like it's a little weird out there right now with funding and money. And so I think we've always been pretty smart with how we do our people growth, right? We're not like a huge, let's hire 100 people. Like we're pretty smart and we pace ourselves with it. And so I think we're kind of sitting back for a little bit and truly understanding like, okay, what do we need? Let's see what the world looks like. Let's like kind of sit and take a look at everything. Let's look at our budgets. Let's see where do we want our goals? Is it to lower margins? Is it to become more profitable? Or profitable, not more profitable. Is it become a profitable company? Is it to do these things? And I think we want to kind of see that full scope before we're like, all right, let's invest our money on this side. And luckily, we've had great partners in our investors who are helping us out in like the best ways to do that. Yeah,
I think that's really important. That I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, anytime you go into to pitch to investors for money, you always have to have some idea of how that money is going to be spent.
yep.
But just because you pitch them on this, and it's good that you have good partners that aren't saying, hey, Evan, you say you're going to spend your money on this. get spending because you need to scale up faster. And that's great that you have good partners there, because I think that can be one of the key components of a failure to a startup, when you're getting pushed to do something when you're not ready. Because
Yep.
you're saying, and I like your viewpoints on what you're waiting for when it comes to hiring. And not that you need to hire with me or anything. It's more like, I think founders get trapped in, okay, I need to make these hires, because if I don't get these hires, I can't scale my company faster. It's You're going to scale your company, but we're also in a market where people are getting laid off.
Yep.
But even if people are getting laid off, you still want to, from my knowledge of everything I know about you, you still want to do right by people and
Yep.
everything. But you're also considering, okay, how do we count for, okay, you got this X amount of money, you got to make it last 24 months instead of the 12 to 18 months in the past, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, but you want to make this smart hiring. So how much of that is going into when you're going through your budgeting for headcount planning and everything else?
Yeah, again, you're hitting it on the head on that, right? So like smart hiring is a good term for it. What did I say? Hire slow.
Yes.
I don't love the term fire fast that you also hear that goes along with that. I don't think that's the nicest way to put it. But hire slow, right? And I think now more than ever, and you called out the market, I think the market everywhere is a little kind of fishy right now.
Mhm.
Everyone's a little nervous. Everyone's kind of waiting to see what happens the next, whatever. I feel like 6 months ago, like, let's see what happens in the next 6 months. And now they're saying, let's see what happens in the next 6 months again. And so I think we're waiting. I don't know is exactly what we're doing. I think maybe it is a little bit. And I think we're kind of waiting to see, all right, like, let's see what the market looks like in 3 months, because we never want to be in a position where we have to have layoffs and have to let people go. And luckily, we've never been in that position before, where we've had to have layoffs because of the market or because we're burning through money too fast or anything like that. And I see it all over LinkedIn. I know you see it all over LinkedIn. That is like never the type of company we wanted to be, where we're just, you get an investment, hire and burn through all this cash, and then like, good luck. And so we've always kind of taken the approach of smart hiring. Hey, what are our goals as a company? What do we need to achieve those goals? What positions do we need to fill in order to achieve those goals? It's very much like, if our goals are, let's say, to lower some of our margins and our cost of goods, and that could be achieved by building X, Y, and Z integration. Okay, well, here's the output of our current engineering team. Here's, if we want to get to lower cost of goods by X date, how many people do we need on the engineering team in order to hit that goal? And I think we look at it in a very kind of data-centric way, and we want to get way more data-centric than we are. But I think we look at it that way, in a smart way, when we think about our headcount and hiring and all those things. So we look at it the same way on the support side. How many tickets can they handle? We look at the same way on the sales side as well. What's the average kind of number of sales we're making a month, if we have a certain kind of headcount? And it sounds like weird to boil people down to a number, because that's definitely not what we're trying to do. But I think we're trying to be smart about what are our goals? How do we get there? How can we measure the output of the team? And if we need to fill those gaps to make sure we're accelerating, we will. Now, does that lead to some like slower growth and slower things like that? Yeah, sure. But I think there's a huge benefit to smart growth as well, because we've all seen the horror stories of trying to achieve hyper growth and then it just kind of coming to an end too quickly sometimes, and we don't want to be that.
And I think that's really smart of y'all to go that, and that might be the New York mindset of sales first and not wanting to have to go under anytime, because there's different mentalities, right? In the West, it's just like grow as fast as possible, no matter the cost. And that can work, sure. But
Yeah.
they
The
can.
two companies I worked for before this, both of the founders were like East Coast founders. And I think it's just, and same for Avi, I believe, and same for Brian. And we all kind of just come from, I think, that similar mentality of like founders we've seen at these other companies that we've worked at. Is that East Coast, like you said, like, hey, be smart with what you're doing, and like, let's get the revenue going, and then we can worry about the rest after. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm curious, when you pointed out a little bit on your headcount plan, even though would you say you've budgeted beyond the 24 months? Because I assume now, right around now or so, you've done your planning. For founders that are like, okay, I planned out in these next 24 months to do this. I've done this, but you're still saying that, you know what? I still want to see how the market goes. Like, how do you, if you've already had the budget for this, but you still want to see how the market goes? I'm curious as to your mindset and your advice for people on, okay, even though I have this budget and we've done our goal planning for this, the market still is a little weird. So
Yep.
I'm still going to wait a little bit.
Yeah, we like to do things in like a 3 when we're thinking about budgeting. So we'll do like a high, a medium, and a low. I think I said that backwards: high, medium, low. So we'll think about, let's say the market goes berserk and everyone's making a whole bunch of money and like everyone's making sales and everyone's happy. Like, what happens in that scenario? What happens in a scenario where it's kind of even of the, middle of the road, even keel? And then what happens in the scenario of, hey, the market's not doing so hot? What do we do in that sort of scenario? And so we look at 3 sort of budgets on that perspective of what's our headcount going to be, what kind of software are we going to invest in on all of those levels. What I will say about plans is the plan that you make yesterday or today is not going to be the same plan you're going to have for tomorrow. And that is something I've learned very quickly. And you'll look at the plan that you made 3 months ago, and it's going to be different than what the actual happened. So my best advice for that is like, be okay, be flexible, understand that things are going to change and you're going to have to evolve with what's ever going on. And be okay swallowing that kind of change that you might not have thought was going to happen. The last part I'll say about that too is be incredibly transparent. Be transparent with your customers about it. Be transparent with your employees about it. Be transparent with your investors about it, and your board, and everything. That is what I will say to like the end of the road. I always say, as transparent as you can be and as open as you can be, the better, because then expectations are always set the right way. If I walk into a board meeting, well, Avi does most of the talking in them, but if we walk into a board meeting and we say we're going to do X amount of dollars in 6 months, and then 6 months comes by and we're doing 20X, they're going to be like, that's great, but why didn't you tell us? And then it's the same on the customer side. Hey, we're going to deliver, and we think about customers with everything we do. Hey, we're going to deliver this product for you in 2 months, and then 5 months go by, we never delivered it because we never communicated that, hey, it's taking longer than we thought. You're going to get in a lot of trouble with your customers. You might lose some customers. So what I will say about planning is be flexible, have those different levels. So then when the time comes that you hit the under, you already have a plan for the under, or if you hit the over, you have a plan for the over. And be transparent with everyone that you talk to about that plan. Don't hide anything. That only gets you into trouble. So transparency, flexibility.
I think I like that. I think it's a clarification on transparency, because what you're stating, like, I don't know a lot of companies that don't want to be transparent. And I think people try to put that in their values and whatever. But I think it's, what does transparency mean? And what I'm hearing is transparency is when you say you're going to do something, have some form of communication structure to let them know how that is going. So if you say, hey, we're going to hit X, okay, the cadence to hit X is this. If we're going to deliver Y,
Yep.
what is the cadence to the people that need to know about it? And I think that's the hard part is sometimes determining who your stakeholders are for all those things. Because when you want to deliver why to the user, like that has to be communicated not just to the user that, okay, hey, we want to get this product feature out, but the entire your the product team needs to know that, the support team, the sales team, everybody needs to know that so that they can be part of that process to get there. And then the transparency lies in, okay, we didn't get this done.
Right.
The support team needs to know that so they can probably explain that to the customer. The sales team then needs to know, okay, probably shouldn't be selling that right now unless it's to say, okay, actually, we're going to have this ready in 3 months from now or something. Would you say that?
Yeah, definitely. And a big thing for us is, we even beyond that with our own employees, because I truly believe like happy employees, employees that you're transparent with breed happy customers. I think you have to start with your employees. So the happier they are, I think that kind of floats its way down. And so we're not only transparent on those plans and those tools and what's coming down the pipeline and the things that we're working on, and we're reworking how we're we try to share our revenue almost, every week, every single day, and how we're growing, how we're churning. We used to have a channel that posted all these things. We're reworking it now with our new BI tool. And they probably heard, if they listen to this, they're gonna be like, you've been saying this for 2 months and like, you haven't done it yet. We're working on it. I promise, team. But we are. We're transparent with all of our numbers. When we come out of a board meeting, we tell them how it goes, right? We want to be, so it's not only on like the processes and all that stuff, which you're 100% correct on, but it's also on the intangibles of like, how did the board meeting go? Are they happy with us? Like, what do they need us to do? Because I believe that if we filter that down to everyone kind of is on that ship and can get bought in and understands the full scope of what's happening everywhere, and what the expectations are and what are people's expectations. And so that's also what I would say too, is it's not only the work side of it. I think it also has to be the human side of it, of like, how are things going? How are you feeling? How are other people happy with us? Are they unhappy with us? And I think you also have to be transparent about all of that too, as well.
Fantastic. And kind of like bringing it back a little bit. So now that you've brought on Carl, like how has the product team changed since I think it was like 2 to 4, I don't know how many, it was less than 5 hires before Carl. Now, Carl, I think your team is now 10 people or so.
Let me pull it up here.
Something like that. 10, 12.
6, 7, 12.
Yeah. So now our team's grown more than 2 times since Carl's joined. So what has changed within the product team, and what has been so far the success of the product team?
Yeah, so it's been great. Carl has officially like taken. I'm not head of product or anything like that. Carl's taken over product and tech. He's that whole side of the house. So since Carl's come on, he's brought on a ton of structure that, like I had mentioned before, that we really needed, and we needed some expertise there. And so it's definitely been really, really great. We have a back end team of 4 and a front end team of 4. We have a designer and 2 product managers, and then Carl, which makes up the 12. And so I'd say we run, kind of like a pretty traditional shop in that sense, which is great. Like the structure, they have a stand up every single day that I try to join if I can. We have design reviews. We have all these proper product docs that like I probably was too wishy-washy on, and Carl's like laid down the groundwork of exactly what we need. We have all of our Jira cards set up, right? We have all the kind of security set up that I probably was not so great at the start of like making sure that certain things were as secure as they could be. And Carl's really laid that down, and the culture from Carl has really kind of filtered through the rest of the team, which is amazing to see. They're all involved in everything. They want to be involved not only in the technical side, they want to talk to the salespeople, they want to talk to the support people. And that kind of starts at the top, I believe, right? And that all kind of trickles down. So the team's been great. It has all the proper processes as like a technical and engineering team I think it should have, right? Are there things we can always improve on? I'm sure Carl would say yes. I think there's always things you can do better. But without that, like to think that we're a team of 12, which I think is our biggest team here technically now at Marqi, might be in line with the revenue team, is wild. It drives a lot of what the future of our company is. While yes, we're definitely pretty sales focused, I think we're kind of in this paradigm shift, and we'll always be sales focused. I think every company is sales focused, but we're kind of in this paradigm shift of like thinking a lot more about product and what does this mean. And they've been heads down working on a huge new project, like a revamp of our entire dashboard and new integrations and all of these things that they were getting ready to launch in a couple months. And so they're really heads down working on a lot of those things. And without Carl and the leadership there, I don't think we would have gotten there. And you know, we have some great leaders on the technical side of the house too. You know, I'm not going to name them all. Like I mentioned, I think that would be unfair. But we brought on some great talent. You know, it kind of all stems again from the Awana side of the house, because I know we brought a number of hires from you guys, but some of those guys had referrals as well. And so, you know, I mentioned it before, you know, we hire in South America, and there's a number of reasons why we do that. One of the biggest reasons is because of the culture, and like we have ties down there. My co-founder Avi, his family's Chilean. He was born in Brazil. My mother's from Argentina. We love South America. We want to provide resources, energy, jobs down there, right? And so that's something we thought about a lot as we're getting into it. And the talent down there is great, and it's not totally recognized. And we've had great people join this company and brought great culture to the team, and the work they're delivering is great, that we don't, I think is unrealized just yet. And I hope the secret isn't out just yet. But you know,
a few more years.
I hope so. But it's I think everyone at the company is really bought into it. And we try to integrate that team as much as we can into the rest of the company. And everyone kind of knows everyone. I know I'm rambling on this question, but we had a whole company offsite. We flew a couple of them up to kind of meet some of the people, right? And so we've been able to meet them in person. And I know we're fully remote, but the fact that we're able to kind of connect with these people in person, I think also adds to the value of the work that they're doing and the buy-in and everything that we hope to kind of achieve. So yeah.
And so is just the technical team in LATAM, or do you have other people on your organization also down in LATAM?
Our designer Natalie is down in LATAM. I guess part of the technical team, sort of, but product team. But so yeah, that's all that we have. Couple product people in the States, but all the developers are down in LATAM. And our designer is also down in LATAM. We are definitely not against hiring for other roles in LATAM as well. It's just kind of the way that it worked out. But yeah, it's been great. And the interesting, I'll say, is like the culture. I'm sure people, what is the culture like? Is it work? And I think the culture not only between countries is different, the culture between regions within the countries are different, which I'm sure you see a lot of, Calvin. And so that's something that we've had to work out, but I think we've done a great job with it. And I think different cultures bring different perspectives, which actually build a better product. And I think everyone here kind of buys into that vision and that thought. And again, that's kind of driven by Carl as well. But I think if you got everyone from the same exact place to build the same exact thing, I think you wouldn't have as good of a product. And so I relish in the idea of like making sure we're having people from not only different countries, but different areas within their own country. So we can kind of understand all the different diverse things that we need to build a better product.
Yeah, I love that you look at the different cultures and how that breeds the product to becoming more, have more depth. And I'm sure that brings a perspective to even how the product should be defined, because when you talk about, I don't know, and I think this is going to be it would be a much longer chat about how your product has changed and the company has changed. But I can state that, okay, you start out with companies' online listings don't match. Like, if anybody's been in Latin America, like Google does not exist. Google exists in the fact that it likes to prove everything wrong.
Yep. Yep.
Everything is on Instagram or maybe Facebook, but I know if you check a restaurant's listing on Instagram, that's the most reliable. And I've actually had to go into Google listings for restaurants and go, actually, this is your correct listing. Um, I, I that's a problem that we don't see in the States, or maybe it's
Yep.
starting to happen more and more, but like having that different perspective of seeing like, and that could probably lead to product evolution, because again, this is working in the States now. This could expand because restaurants exist everywhere.
Yep.
You could probably evolve the product in that mindset, because as an American, I would never think about, oh, your product listing on Google probably should match all these other spots, because people don't use just Google for or Yelp or whoever for your restaurant. People are looking up other
Right.
places, and having those different cultures helps to expand the possibilities for your product.
Yep, agreed. And like the the team down there is like, when can we start selling into Latin America? Because this is an issue. And I'm like, oh, we know. I hear it from my cousin every day. Avi hears it from his family every day. I hear it from our team every day. Like it's an issue, and it's uh and I don't think we totally understand the full scope of it, right? Is it an issue because no one uses Google? I don't think that's the case. Is it an issue because it was just never or people are using TripAdvisors and mostly for tourists? Like who's it benefiting, right? And so like I think we want to understand that fully, but oh yeah, it will open those worlds. And like the fact that we have this leg in with this team of people who truly see the problem firsthand is like something I definitely do not undervalue. Like they get it. Because like you said, you'll Google something by you and you're like, this has been closed for 3 years. Like, why is there still, why am I like walking into this fake place?
Exactly.
And we're hoping to fix that. And there's a huge opportunity down there. And I think we have this great leg up with this team that's already down there, boots on the ground, understanding it. So I'm excited for what that looks like.
Well, I really appreciate your time discussing all this, like the evolution of how Marqi has grown as a company, how the product team was founded, how you started with some ICs, grew it up to now a 12-person team with some really strong direction, and even how you plan budgets and not, you create the plan, but essentially throw it out the next day and recreate it almost every day. And I think I really appreciate the insight you've given there. Before we break, any last words when people look at how to run or how to build their team, how to run their companies, anything like that, or even a book that you would recommend?
No, it's been a pleasure. I always love catching up with you, Calvin. I know it's been a little while, so I'm always happy to do this. One, I want to say thanks for the Awana team and for the help you gave us at the beginning. And then some advice I'd give is make mistakes. You're gonna be okay with making mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Learn from those mistakes and like understand and take that and digest it and like, what can I do better next time? What can I learn from this mistake and do better next time? Don't see a mistake as a failure. See a mistake as a learning opportunity. You'll get advice from everyone who says all these different things. Like that is, you can take it, you can hear it, you can listen to it. But the biggest thing I always say is it's okay to make mistakes. Be positive, be nice. And I think you'll go a long way if you're okay with that. And I think, if you're okay making mistakes, like I said, being positive, being nice, you'd be surprised at what comes your way. That might be a boring answer, but I think it's a good answer. And so I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
I appreciate it, Evan. Well, I'll catch up with you soon, and
Yep.
thank you, everybody. If you want to follow Marqi at what they're doing,
I think
why don't you drop their socials and how they can?
Yeah. Let me have our socials ready. All right. So we're at marqi.com. That's MARQII. There's no U in there. We've made that mistake before on LinkedIn. It's just Marqi, again, MARQII. We are also on Instagram, so get Marqi, so you could find us there as well. If you're looking to get in touch, you can definitely send me an email. Am I able to share my email in here?
Sure.
I guess I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Just evan@marqi.com, marqi.com. I'm happy to help chat, give advice, or even just like lament together as founders. Always happy to do that. The most powerful thing that I've come to learn is that there's so many people going through the same experiences, and going through it alone is harder. And if you could talk to someone about it, it makes it that much easier to go through. So feel free to email me. I'm happy to talk always. And that's kind of it.
Appreciate it, Evan.
Thanks for tuning in and spending a part of your day with us. We appreciate it. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Have questions? Head over to awana.io and ask away.